generator started. Attention, reporting the target position.
Alright, so we're back once again, and today we're going to be taking a look at a little bit of a different combination. There's going to be some players, there's going to be some ships, some ship classes, and maybe some playstyles too, that I consider, interesting to say the least. We're going to be covering everything from DD mains to cruiser mains to battleship mains and even carrier mains. Yes, I said it. Carrier mains, a type of player that I don't often even want to talk about, but I will be featuring them in this video. So with that being said, let's get into it. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, consider subscribing. It really helps a lot. So first up is the DD main that decides to hop into cruisers for the first time ever. And on the face of it, you might not think this is all that big of a deal. I mean, cruisers and DDs are probably two of the most similar classes of ship in the game. Although there is only 4 classes, so that doesn't leave much choice between battleships, carriers, cruisers and destroyers. But in general, the difference isn't all that large going from DDs to cruisers. But this is a little bit of a weird one, because I suffered from the exact same feeling, except kind of in reverse, for the first time I switched from cruisers to DDs, as my very first tier 10 was the Minotaur. And some might say the Minotaur is basically a DD, based on how often you get one shot. Not that I have personal experience with that or anything. And then I switched to DDs, and it was kind of liberating in a sense. Now remember, this is about 2 or 3 years ago, so the game was very different back then. But generally you could do a lot more than you could with cruisers in a DD. But when you go from DDs to cruisers, suddenly the concealment goes up, the size of your ship goes up, but your actual impact on the outcome of the game of course goes down. Much like the chances of you escaping a cap after being raided by the Petropavlovsk, sitting 9 km outside of the cap behind an island. Again, not that I have personal experience with that or anything. But let's keep going, there's plenty of other things to talk about in this video. The next of these combinations are the carrier players, who basically play anything else. And by anything else I mean a destroyer, a battleship, or even a cruiser for the first time. Now, here comes the disclaimer. I don't mean every player is like this. Sometimes players play badly, and this is what I'm pointing out. We all have bad games, myself included, so before you think about commenting, well, all carrier players aren't like this, that's not what I'm saying. That felt good. So, the running theme I see with carrier players that play different classes for the first few times is a nervousness. A nervousness that means generally they don't know what they're doing. Now, of course, you have your typical not know what you're doing, from potatoes, like myself, but then you have the different kind of nervousness, and you know, the nervousness that comes along with carrier players is no fault of their own. I mean, they're basically new players on a different class. But that doesn't stop them from being opened up to all type of criticisms from people who are just a little bit more experienced than them on surface ships. Some of my personal favorite things that are typed in chat are, why are you playing so far back? You're not the carrier. You do realize you can't see around that island, right? And finally, just go back to playing carriers. I already checked your stats. To be honest, these things don't really do anything other than make the player feel like they can't try anything else. So the next time you, or even I, want to rage at someone, maybe we need to chill out a little bit and take it easy. Let's keep going. Now we got a little bit of a short one. The DD players who play battleships. This is a good one. Well, good or bad depending on what part of the trade you're on. If there's one thing that battleships in general are not meant to do, then trying to 1v1 enemy ships from 3 to 5 kilometers probably isn't it. So when a player has been playing DDs for a particularly long time, and then switch to battleships, like I myself have done, there's some things that kind of take a little bit of experience to adjust to, shall we say. Now, unless you play German battleships, probably playing like you're in a DD when playing a battleship probably isn't going to end all that well. and it's going to garner a hell of a lot of hate from your teammates as you sail through the middle of the map, trying to 1v1 that enemy shimakaze in your republic. But of course, you're free to play your battleships however you like, even if it will end up getting you reported 15 times in a single game. Alright, on to the next one. The 1-point captain that's first timing at tier 10. In terms of bad things and bad playstyles and bad players and bad ships and bad things in the game, this doesn't rank all that high on the list of terrible things, but it's a frustration for everyone involved, and it's kind of an invisible frustration too. And the frustration basically takes the form of players who take their new tier 10 into a tier 10 random battle, but the one thing that isn't right, yep, the captain is a lowly 1-point captain, and all they can do is rock that priority target into the game, which is probably why their teammates get mad when they don't have the concealment expert and get spotted when they shouldn't, or even when they don't have the expert marksman and can't turn their guns quickly enough to one-shot that enemy Smolensk before it smokes and starts shooting. So much HE, it makes the Australian bushfires look like a barbecue. Wait, can I say that? Anyways, now, again, like most of these issues, a solution is available. It's very simple. I even started doing it myself because it was so easy. And that's to take the captain you've trained all the way from tier 1 of the line to tier 10 and keep switching him onto the new ship that you get. And as a result, by the time you get to tier 10, you'll have at least a 12 to 13 point captain, if not more, to put on your new tier 10. And it'll feel a hell of a lot better when you get into game, and you won't be wondering why you perform so badly compared to the lower tier ships of the line. Now, let's get on to the final issue of this little rant. The experienced Super Unicom carrier player in ranked. This is a kind of a playstyle, well, I'm not even sure I would call it a playstyle to be honest. It's more like a combination of a whole load of things that make the game really hard to play as a DD main. And as a DD player, this is just amplified by 100 million %. Now this part of the video isn't to trash CV players at all. I mean, if you enjoy playing the class, go for it. It's in the game, why not enjoy it? But there's nothing like seeing an enemy carrier player who actually knows what they're doing. And then there's you, or myself, who is playing a DD and basically, before the game even starts, or you fire your first salvo, you lose at least 4,000 HP, even if the enemy isn't completely competent. And my god, there was actually one game where I was playing the Daring, and before I even got near the cap, I was spotted, and I lost, I think, 70% of my HP from 2 runs from a really good carrier player, and it was the most upsetting thing in my life, and never mind. Now, facing a Super Unicom CV player effectively decides the game, and if there's one on both teams, then the game becomes one of two things: a 1v1 between which one is better, or they cancel each other out, and the surface ships basically decide who wins. But either way, really good CV players are probably the most terrifying thing in this game, as a DD main, but that's all I got to say about that. Well, that pretty much sums up everything I've got to say about some of the playstyles, some of the ships classes, some of the players, and just general things about battles in World of Warships that I find interesting. I've been playing with the idea of featuring other games in the future, keeping the same theme, maybe of historical games, but maybe branching out a little bit from World of Warships. So let me know in the comments below if there's a particular game, or even a particular player that you find interesting in World of Warships that maybe I didn't feature here. But as always, if you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing. If you like it, give it a like, and until the next time, I'll see you in the next one.